Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Thank you very much for watching the channel. Please subscribe on Mayanja Fazil, my YouTube channel, and please do not forget to share these videos because they are helpful to every Ugandan in the situation that we are in today. Now, pressure mounts on Museveni's oil because as we speak right now, you all understand that Museveni has been banking on the oil, whereby he has invested a lot of time, a lot of resources in order to make sure that they build the pipeline from western part of Uganda to the to Tanga port in Tanzania. And we all understand that the East African oil pipeline is one of the longest pipelines in the world, and it is going to cost a lot of money, close to 3.5 billion US dollars. Now, of course, Museveni was defeated by the whites, the ones that he is always abusing. He wanted to build the refinery in Uganda, but the whites said no. We want to take the oil as it is, straight out of the ground. So this shows who actually had the leverage over the other. Now, the other issue that Museveni ran into, number one, was looking for people who are going to finance this pipeline. So many banks, Museveni and the partners, for example, the partners who are in Uganda's oil include Sinok, which is the China National Offshore Oil Company that deals with it's a state-owned company by the Chinese government that deals with drilling oil in different parts of the world. And then we had the other company known as Total, which has the biggest share, and also the Ugandan government as well as the Tanzanian government, and so on and so forth. Now, all these people had to make sure that they look for finances, or they look for funding from different lenders all over the world. Now, as we speak today, what I understand on the continent in terms of the Chinese policy, the Chinese have now kind of have pulled themselves away from financing huge infrastructure projects like we saw in the beginning. Because in the beginning, they would build roads, they would build railways, they would build airports. That's something that was known as the Belt and Road Initiative. But as we see right now, they are pulling out the money that they had invested in these infrastructures because there is no other country in the world that has the capacity to build such infrastructure as the Chinese have been able to do it. Even if you see no other country in the world, like you can look, Britain doesn't have any infrastructure they are building on the continent, as well as the Americans, because they do not have that capacity. Now, the Chinese have realized that working with undemocratic government, there is no guarantee for their money to be recouped, and there is no guarantee on return in investment, especially with the political instability in Uganda. And so they have decided to re-strategize on how they deal with the African continent, and they are still thinking about that. Now, in one of their strategies, what the Chinese are now doing is they're going into a situation where the government is actually, African governments are supposed to hire them in order to build for them. So look for resources elsewhere, either World Bank or IMF, and then hire them to build for them. It's the same thing that we are seeing today in the, I think there is a port that they are building right now that they have entered negotiations with, I think, is it Tanga port, where the oil is going to pass, that they have entered negotiations with the Tanzanian government. And this port is likely to be funded by the Tanzanian government. Wherever Tanzanian government is going to get the resources, it's up to them. But the Chinese are no longer committing resources to such big projects. Now, this brings me to the other point of the French, which is Total. Now, Total was also tasked to look for money in order to finance this. Total is now, we are only left with Total. Because Total now has to look for close to 3.5 billion US dollars, as well as working in tandem with Museveni and his government, and to make sure they reach out to different lenders around the world. Now, so many banks have pulled out of this issue, and they are looking not to give Total any money because of their commitments they have towards climate change, in the environment, and all that sort of stuff. So these banks had made commitments, and as a matter of fact, activists have put more pressure on these banks in order not to finance these mega big projects that are causing human rights violations by evicting people out of the land, by getting this pipeline and passing it through a national park that leads to uh, uh, disturbance in the ecosystem of the country, and so on and so forth. So different banks that were approached by the French company Total, most of them had actually pulled out. We all know that climate change is now the thing globally, and it's really becoming very tough. Things are getting tougher with the days that go by. Now, for you, in order to benefit from your oil, you need that funding, of course, to build the pipeline. But even if it's not for the pipeline, then you need also something known as insurance. Because the way these multinational companies operate, they operate with insurance. Because insurance is that in case something goes wrong, the insurance money that you paid somewhere is supposed to come in and help you. Now, if it was Museveni just building his pipeline the African way, he would even do it without reaching out for insurance, just like we see with the Uganda Airlines. So the French, under their company known as Total, they have been going around French companies asking, please, would you insure our project, the pipeline in Uganda? Would you insure the oil in Uganda? So as a matter of fact, what happened is no one is interested in insuring insuring the East African oil pipeline, as well as ensuring the transportation of this oil pipeline, oil from whatever western part of Uganda to Tanzania. Now, according to Energy Voice, the Total East Africa Midstream announced a tender seeking experienced and reputable insurance and reinsurance brokers. Interested companies should express interest by June 19th for work on the East African crude oil pipeline. The company said it required reinsurers and insurers to work on placement in the local and international markets. They would also have to link up with the Tilenga Insurance Program. The Global Catholic Climate Movement Program Coordinator, Prince Papa, said that ECOP was an 18th century project and one which is not fit for either Uganda or the world today. The project is already forcefully displacing local communities, endangering wildlife and protected biodiversity areas, and tipping the world closer to climate catastrophe. ECOP oil would generate more than 34 million tons per year of carbon emissions, the group says. Inclusive Development International's Executive Director David Pred named Marsh, AON, Will Stowers, Watson, and Arthur J. Gallagher in his plea. The companies should not respond to this tender by instead making a clear public statement that they will not provide services to ECOP due to its obvious incompatibility with the Paris Agreement goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 C. Ensure Our Futures Lindsay Kennan called on Arians, AXA, SCOR, Munich Re, Swiss Re, and Zurich. The companies should stick to net zero pledges, she said, and avoid the projects. Total is also working on securing financial support for the 3.5 billion ECOP money it needs to build, and as a matter of fact, it has failed to raise that money. Banks are increasingly under pressure to distance themselves from the hydrocarbon sector, particularly in Europe. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, speaking to Insurance Development Forum, talked recently about net zero commitments. Now, your investments should be contributing to climate pollution, should not be contributing to climate pollution, but should be directed towards climate solutions. Guterres said net zero commitments should cover your underwriting portfolios, and this should include the underwriting of coal and fossil fuels. So, what Energy Voice here is one of the leading newspapers in oil and gas and energy and all that kind of stuff. So they are showing that different activists around the world that are paying attention to the ECOP and the insurers, they have now targeted the insurance as a result of the advertisement that Total had put out, calling on insurance companies to come and bid on who should insure the East African crude oil pipeline. So as a matter of fact, pressure was exerted on these insurance companies, and then one of them has bowed out. Now, AXA opts out opts out of role in Total Energies ECOP. Now this says that Total East African Midstream insured and a tender, blah, 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 blah. Now, AXA, Stop ECOP reported today that AXA saw the project as, quote, not compatible with its risk appetite and more broadly with its climate commitments. AXA confirmed the decision in comments to Energy Voice. Quote, the underlying project is not compatible with our climate commitments, the representative said, citing the company's recent climate report. Stop ECOP launched its campaign by sending letters to 5 blockers and 6 insurers and reinsurers. Reclaim Finance's founder and director, Lucy Pinson, welcomed AXA's decision. None of the top French financial institutions want to put a stamp on the ECOP project, she said. It is particularly encouraging that AXA says the project is not aligned with their climate commitment. We hope that Stop ECOP is only the first on a long list of new oil and gas projects that AXA says no to. Stop ECOP reports that 3 French banks, BNP Paribas, Crédit Agricole, Société Générale, will not support Total Energies' plans. Also opting out are Barclays, Credit Suisse, Unicredit, and ANZ. Now, those are all banks that Total needed in order to raise the 3.5 billion. So, short of these banks, it means that it's not going to be able to raise that money. And if it's not able to raise that money, it means that they are not going to be able to transport the oil from wherever, these Western Uganda to Tanzania, because they have no pipeline. Then they will have to resort to 2 things. You either use the aircraft or you can use trucks to go and transport the oil to these ports, which is really, really going to be very, very expensive. And what that means is if you're going to use trucks, then what that means is that you will have to use the Kenyan route. And now by transporting crude in trucks is a really, really, really dangerous venture than even if you're transporting it in these pipes, which is quite interesting because of issues to deal with efficiency and, delivering the oil on time, and also the logistics that go into the transportation are really, really high. Now, those of you who would go and read into this, but now what does this mean for Museveni and his government? So what this means technically is that without this revenue, of course, Museveni is his pool of revenue is now shrinking, because we saw that Uganda depends mostly on foreign aid and the aid that we receive from Western donors, and most of that aid has been misused, and also natural resources for the countries have been misused. The Ugandan companies have been deliberately it's been deliberate to make sure that they fail, and so on and so forth. So now this means that without the oil pipeline, they cannot transport the oil. Museveni cannot get the revenue. It means that it is going to crumble his whole establishment, his whole patronage network that he has created and he has financed through ventures of oil and all this kind of stuff. So we're keeping an eye on this situation. Especially, we are keeping an eye on the Uganda Airlines, keeping an eye on, because these are some of the major projects that Museveni had embarked on in order to raise his revenue. Because through the Uganda Airlines, he thought that he would boost the tourism industry, which is one of the biggest contributors of money in the country. Then he also thought about the Ugandan oil and all this kind of stuff, but now he's not receiving even a single penny. He cannot even mortgage the oil, because of what use would the oil be if at all you cannot even transport it. So Total would rather go out and maybe sort out issues in Mozambique, where there is good prospects of oil, but it's just near the coast, and Mozambique has a port, so they don't have to construct a pipeline, which is really interesting. So that is it for now. Please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mayanja Fazil, and do not forget to like, comment, and tell me what you think about this issue. But this is really, really huge news, big news, and it's not really good for Museveni when he sees such kind of stuff, because these are things that they don't want us to talk about. They don't want us to to discuss about. But when you see such things happening, definitely you're bound to laugh a wee bit, because someone will ask, okay, what if it was NUP in power, and if at all it's the one that was denied, this project, well, I will make a video for that and what it actually means. Let us meet in the next one.